So now it's time to make the pumpkin hummus. So all you need to do for this is cut your pumpkin in half and cut that in half again. And there's no need to peel this. This is just going to go in the oven like this. A little bit of olive oil over the top, a little bit of salt, and then this just goes in the oven next to the lamb. So now I'll show you how to make herbed broccoli couscous. Use tepid water or cold water. Boiling water makes it sometimes a bit claggy. Take enough water just to cover the couscous, about 1/4 of an inch. Add a bit of salt and pepper. Give that a good stir and then just leave it. And now I'll get on to the broccoli. Think of this as a green vegetable part of your dish. Just cut the broccoli into florets, and if they're really big, chop them in half. This is just a pot of boiling lightly salted water. Put that in there. So once the broccoli's cooked, you still want it a little bit crunchy. It's important that you take it out of the boiling water and drop it into a bowl of iced water, and this stops it cooking immediately. You want it a little bit al dente. So the broccoli's gone nice and cold. It's ready to blitz up. Just drain it in the sink, in the colander. So because the broccoli is still quite moist, that's why you add a little bit less water to the couscous than you normally would. Just put it into the food processor. And then I want to add some fresh mint and parsley. I'm going to use curly parsley, good old-fashioned curly parsley. I mean, most of us like using the flat leaf parsley, but the flavour in here is fantastic. Then some mint, because we're serving lamb. If the mint's tender, use the stalk. If the mint's a bit old, take the leaves off. Now what you want to do is add some oil. Extra virgin olive oil is really good in here because it's really flavoursome, and this dish isn't being cooked. A couple of tablespoons, and then just cold splits it to a point where it's still a little bit crumbly. You don't want a paste made out of the broccoli. And that is looking ready. So now just mix this into the couscous, and you can see here that the couscous has absorbed all that water that was in there before, and then add the broccoli. Stir it all up together. This will be ready to eat in about 20 minutes or so, but leaving it for a bit longer is fine. And now it's time to make the dukkha. And dukkha is an Egyptian kind of spicy nut mix, usually made with hazelnuts, but because I'm serving it with the lamb and the other components, I'm going to make it with almonds and pine nuts. So what you want to do is dry toast in a hot pan some cumin, fennel and coriander seeds. So these spices are ready when you can get this lovely aroma coming off. Don't burn yourself because you don't want to inhale too much, but it's got a beautiful smell of the fennel and the cumin and the coriander seed. Lovely. Tip it into the dish and just let it go cool. So once these have cooled down a little bit, just put them into a mortar and pestle. I've got some sesame seeds that I bought toasted. Put them in together, and then I've got some nigella seeds. You don't need to toast this, but the flavour in there is just beautiful. And then just pound it up a little bit. You don't need this to be super fine powder, it does have to have some texture. And the aroma from this is just beautiful. It's just really, really aromatic. Next you want to put some nuts in. These are toasted almonds, and then some pine nuts. Pound them up a little bit. Then add a bit of smoked paprika. And I'm also just going to put in a little bit of flaky salt. And just mix that all together and give that a little taste. It's really powerful, which is exactly what you want. It's just going to be a sprinkling across the finished stew. So it's time to check the lamb. It's been in for just over an hour. And I also need to see if the pumpkin's cooked. So look. The knife goes in easily, so that means the pumpkin's ready. This can come out. And then the lamb, what I want to do is reduce some of the liquid in there so it's nice and rich and thick. So I'm just going to take the lid off, keep it off, and cook it for another 30 to 40 minutes until it's nice and tender. So hummus is chickpeas, tahini paste, garlic, lemon and olive oil. In this case I'm putting some roast pumpkin in it. You need to have some cooked chickpeas, and there's nothing wrong with using tinned chickpeas. Just make sure you rinse them before you use them. So once the pumpkin's cool enough to handle, remove the flesh from the seeds and the skin. So scoop out the seeds and then just scoop out the flesh. And the reason you roast it is that it gets a lovely sort of caramelization, and as I said, you can use butternut squash if you don't have any pumpkin. Next up is the tahini. It's sesame paste. You'll find it in most supermarkets. It's a lovely sesame flavour. 2 cloves of peeled garlic, and then some lemon zest and juice. Make sure you don't put any seeds in, so the easiest way is just to strain it through your fingers. So just a bit of salt goes in here, and then it's just time to blitz it. And just add enough oil, you're trying to create a paste in here, like a dip. And then just scrape the sides of the bowl down. And just keep it blitzing. And there you go, gorgeous. A handy hint, if you find that there's too much sauce in your stew and you just think it needs to be a bit thicker, just stir a few tablespoons of flour with cold water into a thick paste and then stir it through for the last few minutes of cooking, and it'll thicken it up nicely. But to serve it, put some of the couscous on a plate, make a little well in the centre, and put some of the stew in the middle. Then a bit of the pumpkin hummus, and finally sprinkle on the dukkha, and there you go. There's your lamb and olive stew on herby couscous with pumpkin hummus and nutty dukkha.